All right, well, while they're doing that, my name's Adam. I work for Riot Games. If you ever played League of Legends, that's us. I'm going to talk to you about Preact. So, quick show of hands, how many of you have used React? A few? Okay. Preact is a really, really similar thing. It's almost an identical API. Sometimes it is literally identical, but it's much smaller. So React is about 30K, minified and gzipped. React, that's not good. There should be Visual Studio Code up there. It's like it's a second monitor. Any MacBook folks know how to replicate instead of? I'm still new to a Mac. Since as of, go ahead.
Displays, and then you can click
arrangement,
mirror.
Yeah, that should do it.
There we go.
Sweet, thank you. So Preact's a lot smaller. It's about 3 kilobytes minified and gzipped instead of React, which is about 30. So there's a sort of a fierce debate online about how big your web app should be, how big is too big. I tend to usually think that React is more than small enough for most cases. But at Riot, we've got some stuff that needs to run all over the world. I wish I could tell you what I'm working on more. Suffice to say, we've got stuff that needs to run literally all over the world. Extremely small bundle size, as small as we can get it. And so Preact has been really, really helpful to us for that. And so with that, I'm going to show you how to use Preact. I'm not going to show you how to build components or pass props or use hooks or suspense or any of that stuff. That's a whole talk in and of itself. If Jesse ever wants me to give it, I'd be happy to. For a lightning talk, I'm going to show you what to change in order to use Preact instead of React, which fills out a lightning talk fairly decently. So the setup is I've got a little React app, a tiny little counter, and I'm going to show you how to switch it over to Preact, slowly but surely. So here it is. I'm using the state hook. I'm rendering the value, incrementing it, decrementing it, and then over here I'm going to React.render it somewhere. And it works. I've got it running over here. I can increment the value. I'll make it a little bigger, but there's not much to see. Before I start diving into the Preact, I just want to stop for just a minute. This is the Babel REPL. If you ever want to see what Babel does to your code, just punch it into the REPL and take a look. So let's just make a quick little component here. And we'll just do something like this. Does anyone know, I'm going to wait to close out the div. What do those divs get turned into? Does anybody know? Like, div is not, what? Oh, that's old school. Nope. React.createElement, if it'll work. Come on, what are you doing? Const foo equals arrow. Oh God, I've got a typo. This is my nightmare. Const foo equals, I forgot the equal sign. There we go. Const foo equals arrow equals. Oh, slash div. There we go. Okay, so this is literally what Babel is going to turn your JSX into. It's going to say react.createElement. And you can actually see this in action. If you open up your bundle, whatever Webpack gives you in the dist folder, you can actually see it in action. It doesn't literally say react.createElement because Webpack has mangled all your imports and turned it into other stuff, but react-default.a.createElement. So that's how Babel works, and I'm bringing that up. It's going to be relevant in a minute. And by the way, that is why whenever you use React, you always have to import React with a capital R, always. And that's why. Because if you don't, that's just going to be like a null reference exception, and your code's not going to work. So let's turn this into Preact. So let's change the import to Preact. I've got both installed in my node module, so we can swap to one or the other. There's no React import anymore, obviously. And it turns out Preact uses something called H. Why it's called H isn't really important. It's some historical reasons. And that's going to be the equivalent of our React.createElement. Now let's get that use state in there. Preact keeps them separate to keep the size as small as you want. If you just use Preact without the hooks, it's about 3.5K. If you want to use all the goodies like hooks, it'll add another K or two. So let's import our hooks. And now there's use state. And that one's good for now. And now let's come over here. Anytime you use JSX on the page, you need to import React, or H if you're using Preact. And there's no Preact DOM, right? So React, you have React Native and React DOM because you can use it on the web or natively. Preact's just for the web. So that means your React DOM.render equivalent is just Preact.render. It's right there. Do I need to pause? Okay. All right. So it's almost done. It could work, but it certainly won't because React's not defined. So Babel is still turning our JSX into that. And we need to tell JSX, we need to tell Babel, hey, don't turn it into React.create element, turn it into just H, because that's what I want you to use. And so we can come into our Babel RC file, and the syntax is really weird. I'm sorry, but it's weird. We can add a pragma argument, and we can tell it H. And it formats, and I've changed the config, so I'll just restart my dev server. And now it should work. And now we've got it working with Preact. So that could be the end of the talk. That's how you can get Preact working, as simple as that. But let's just do one more quick thing. Let's come back to this component here, that counter component, and I'm going to just get a clean slate on it. I'm going to undo all the stuff that I did to it, and we're going to go back to a React component like I had. Except instead of using JSX, what if hypothetically we were to just manually write out all that stuff? I'm not going to bore you by doing the whole thing. It would look something like that, and then the children of that would be another call to React.create element. And you could just go down the whole tree of components and just keep on doing that. And I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to make you watch. We'll just have Babel do it real quick. So if I slam that into the Babel REPL, that's what it looks like the manual way. And so what if, hypothetically, we'd written our code like that? You wouldn't. And if you think that's ridiculous, that's how any sort of React utilities look that you get off of NPM. Like if you've ever used React Auto-Suggest, React Autocomplete, React Dropdown, that's literally what the code is that's sitting in your node modules. You don't ever see it, but that's exactly what it looks like. Because whenever we publish React utilities, like my GraphQL components that I have for React, I always transpile away the JSX, and Babel leaves that. And that's what all publishers do for React components. But that's a problem if we're using Preact. Because if you have this React component and you try to render it inside of a Preact app, it's certainly not going to work. React is going to go crazy. So to wrap this up, it turns out there's another import. I showed you Preact hooks. There's also Preact compat. Oh, and by the way, this is all Preact 10. It's in release candidate. It's almost released. I would recommend it highly. There's this Preact compat, which basically gives you the entire API for React in one place. And I just want to show you, that window is just to defeat the tree shaking for a minute. I'm going to actually let you take a peek at what's inside of there, just to really show you if we look inside that PC object, that PC import, we've got all the goodies from React in one place, and React DOM. Find DOM node, Hydrate is a new React DOM thing, I think, and we've got our suspense stuff, lazy, React DOM.render. We've got all our hooks. It's all exposed to us under this Preact/compat import. And so it would be really cool, and it would solve our problems if we could just sort of magically go into all of these third-party React libraries that we use off NPM and just sort of dynamically copy-paste that in. But we're not going to modify code from NPM, so we'll just have Webpack do it for us. We can create an alias from React and just point it to Preact compat. And so we tell Webpack, hey, I want you to alias React to Preact/compat and also React DOM. I don't think I need that here, but we'll do it anyway. And now when Webpack sees anything imported from React, it's going to dynamically swap in Preact compat, which has the same API. And that will let us use React utilities, like my GraphQL utilities, React D&D, whatever, in a Preact app. I'll restart the build because we changed the config, and it'll work, hopefully, and it does. And that's it. I wish there were more, but it's that simple. Preact is awesome, same API as React, and just a few tweaks on your config, and it works. And there's no compat package that's external. It's all one package in Preact X. Suspense works, hooks work. What's up?
I'm just going to ask your opinion. I remember about a year ago, there was kind of the alternative React wars, like Inferno, React, that just whole system, right? Looks like
little bit difficult to get. It looks like you've been using this, in earnest for some time. Have you come across any oddities, or has it been a relatively smooth experience now?
No oddities, pretty smooth, and yeah, Preact won the alternative React wars. I don't think Inferno's even being developed anymore. If it is, I haven't heard anything about it. Yeah, it's great. If you really, really care about your bundle size, which you may need to sometimes, I would definitely recommend giving it a try.
And performance-wise, it's similar or better or worse?
That's an interesting question. It beats React in the benchmarks. Some people say it's slower in app code. I haven't really measured hard. Don't expect it to be faster for app development. Right. It might be about the same. It might be a little faster, but your main wins are going to be on bundle size, in my opinion.
And they say that your performance is probably not being lowered by your virtual DOM. It's lowered by everything else.
Yes.
So.
If the render time is your performance, you've probably got bigger problems. Yeah? Question? Oh, sorry. All right. Anybody else? You can ping me afterwards, and I'd be happy to chat if you have other questions. All right. Thank you.